One of the most broken things that we previously had in Elden Ring was power stancing weapons. Power stancing weapons is and was so powerful that at the end of the day we just decided to be out there jumping with heavy attacks with our power stance weapons. And you know, our boys using two-handing their weapons, they were like living left in the dark. There was no love for them. Thanks to patch 107, now we have some love for the big boinks, for the big boys, for the strength builds, for two-handing weapons. Because while it is amazing to power stance weapons, you cannot beat this. Like, you cannot beat two-handing, just regularly two-handing a weapon. And that is what we are going to be discussing today. Today's build is going to be about two-handing our weapons. Specifically, this one that we have right here, the heavy greatsword. Now, first and foremost, what is that they did? So far, all of the buffs that we have for these weapons, we did have previous buffs towards this kind of things. From Software seems to be leaning a little bit more on trying for us to use this kind of playstyle a little bit more and stop using other things. Not completely stop using, not making useless other things, but to have more versatility on the gameplay for us to experience a little bit more all of the other branches of gameplay that Elden Ring has for us. That being said, you do get the basic of it all. When you two-hand a weapon, you get an extra 50% increase in strength. So that extra 50% increase in strength does go beyond the 99 threshold, but at the end of the day, it is a very common consensus to just reach the top of 99, because at the end of the day, the amount that you are going to get from just scaling your stats up to 99 and then scaling that to 149, it really it's not that amazing, and you can be using those points into something else. We will be discussing about that later. For now, yeah, all you need to know is that by two-handing a weapon, you get an extra percentage of 50% increase on your main stat, which is strength. So if you have, let's say, 100 points into strength, those 100 points would be 150 when you two-hand a weapon. As you can see right here, I have 845 AR damage right there. We have 845 damage, and then when we swap this thing, that's going to change to 765. That's for the extra 50 points into strength. At this given point, and the soft cap that we have, I'm just going to get an increase of 1 point, roughly 1 point, sometimes less than that, by each point into strength that I place. So that is why when I do this, it gives me like 80 points more in damage, something around that. Anyways, another thing that they did is that it does increase poise damage. You're going to give poise damage to enemies like if there is no tomorrow, especially with Colossal Swords. Colossal Swords got a specific love treatment on the poise damage that they deal when you hit enemies. That means that you are going to be staggering enemies more often. That means sweet more butt cheeks, claps. Anyways, it is what it is. Poise damage. Again, the poise damage has been increased, but also you get on top of that extra 50% extra strength points that you get. You do get extra percent raw 30 damage. 30 extra raw damage. That is not going to show on your AR, but you are going to be dealing 30% extra more damage. So, all in all, extra strength points, extra damage, extra poise damage, and trust me, as you can see in the footage that you are seeing on the screen right now, these enemies are so very resistant and you are never going to get interrupted. Another amazing thing is that poise got an increase on the armors on themselves. So your basic poise that you have has been increased, Colossal weapons have hyper armors on their actions, so it is not likely that you are going to get interrupted by fighting anyone using this kind of weapons. So basically what that means is that you can be trading hits with anyone, with any single enemy that you can find in the game. Not all of the bosses, that's not just how it works. But some of the highest damaging postures enemies that you encounter in the game, you are going to indeed be able to trade damage, to trade hit with them. That being said, the stats that we have for this build: 60 vigor, 24 mind, 40 endurance, 67 strength. Now why do we have that on strength? Because at the end of the day, the focus, the aim of this build is always to be two-handing my weapon. And by that I am achieving the 99 extra points damage. All you have to do to know is that you have 99 points into strength. Granted, I did mention before that if you go to 99 strength, you can go higher to 150 points, but the soft cap of this game is 80. You could even also tone those down and be able to do the math and two-hand your weapon and get to the soft cap, and that would give you a chance to spread those points into mind, endurance, into vigor. But we do not want to do that because we have just enough endurance to be able to use the armor that we are using. Mind, we're not going to be using that much mind. We are not going to be using Ashes of War that much. We are going to be using Ashes of War with this build, but not as much. Vigor, we have the soft cap for vigor as well. So basically at 150 right here you have everything that you need for this build. And placing points into something else is just not going to make that build that stronger. Right now you are at the cusp of how strong you will be by being as efficient as you will be. Now the Ashes of War that I advise for this thing is the Lion's Claw. If you want to use the Great Shield, you can basically use any Great Shield that you can think of. Well, not of some of the heaviest like this one. Oh no, you can, look at that. That's amazing. Anyways, you can basically use whatever shield that you want to use. And I like the Eclipse Crest Great Shield because it fits the aesthetics of the build. We do have the black cape. By the way, I am using the Banished Knight armor, the one that's not altered. You can farm this thing from right here. People always ask me about my armor, so you can farm this thing right here with one of the Banished Knights right here. It's not the... You cannot get this by the regular Banished Knights, so you do have to go to that place. Anyways, and the Ashes of War that I advise you to have: the Lion's Claw and no skill on your shield. If you're going to... Lion's Claw is not going to increase its damage by the AR. Lion's Claw, it's just going to have the base regular damage that it's always going to have based on the weapon that you have and based on the upgrade level of the weapon. It's not going to increase its damage by AR. It might get some extra damage by Golden Bow or something like that. I'm not entirely sure about that. But all you need to know is that you do not need to be two-handing this thing to deal more damage. As you can see right here, well, that was 330. It's never that accurate with these enemies because their health pool is not really that high. But at the end of the day, it is going to be... Oh, God. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the same for all of them. It's not going to get increasing damage. As you can see, the first one that I did was the highest damaging of them all, and I was one-handing the weapon. So you can definitely one-hand these weapons and then use this thing. It's not going to impact that 50% extra damage that you get from two-handing the weapon. I mean, for the 50% extra strength points that you get for two-handing a weapon. Now, I do advise as well that all of the buffs for Ashes of War, like Sacred Weapon, Lightning Weapon, Fire Weapon, Frostbite Weapon, Poison Weapon, all of those have been buffed. I do not advise to use weapons, well, any of those buffs that increase your status build up, because this is not a weapon for status build up. It's really too slow attacking. So what I would advise is that you do have the option to buff your weapon with extra damage, either by using greases, but using greases is expensive. So I would advise that you use sacred weapon or lightning weapon or fire weapon, and you get that extra damage. And they did get buff. They increase their time that the weapon remains buff. They increase their damage. They increase the attack damage of the skills on themselves. So you can basically toy around with them and basically use them and increase your potential damage by two-handing a weapon. Those buffs are generally going to give you like 160 extra damage. So you definitely want to have those. Now for the talismans. It really is nothing special. Great Jaws arsenal, we are using heavy stuff. Earth's Favor +2, raises maximum HP, stamina and equip load, all of that is amazing. Bull Gold's Talisman, raises Poise. We do want to have as much Poise as possible, because we are going to be trading hits with this thing. And then we have the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman +2 to increase our physical damage and negation. I just really couldn't come up with a better talisman for this. And since we are focusing ourselves on being melee, then why the hell not? You know, you could also use Radagon Soul Seal or Life Talismans to increase your life. You could potentially end up having like 2.4k health, and that would actually be quite amazing. As for the Flask of Wondrous Physics that we are going to be using with this build, I like to use Green Burst Crystal Tia, temporarily boost stamina, recovery speed and mixed physique, and Strength Not Crystal Tia. It's not going to increase your damage that much, honestly. But what I would advise is, like, for example, if you're going to be using a Sacred buff, then use the Sacred Crack Crystal Tier. You're going to use a Lightning buff, then use the Lightning Crack Crystal Tier, just to increase your damage a little bit more. It really is up to you when it comes to the Crystal Tiers. So as you can see, this is very, very powerful. It really is very powerful indeed. Anyways, if you like the video, if you like the content, liking the video is super appreciated, and a subscription to the channel as well. Remember that I always told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You are the gorgeous and beautiful person. Have a beautiful day, and I'll be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Goodbye.